Hello, dear viewers, and welcome back to Hidden Korea. Today, we bring you a story so gripping, so emotionally charged, that it has shaken fans across Asia. In an unexpected moment that left everyone stunned, Ye Jin burst into tears when Hyun revealed a shocking truth. After 3 years of marriage, a revelation no one saw coming. Not even those closest to them. What happened behind the scenes? What truth was powerful enough to break the calm of Korea's golden couple? Join us now as we uncover every hidden detail. Right here, right now. For 3 years, the world had admired Ye Jin and Hyun as the perfect embodiment of serenity, elegance, and quiet happiness. They were the couple who seemed untouchable by chaos, two stars who found peace in each other after decades in the stormy world of fame. But what the public never saw were the shadows that began forming behind the polished smiles. The subtle glances that lingered a bit too long. The silence that stretched just a little too far across the dining table. And it was within that silence that the truth Hyun had guarded began to take shape. Growing heavier by the day until it could no longer be contained. Everything began on a night that should have been ordinary. The rain had just started tapping softly against the windows of their Seoul home, a rhythmic, familiar sound that usually comforted Ye Jin. But tonight, the air felt different. Hyun had called her into the living room with a tone she hadn't heard since before their wedding. His voice was low, careful, as if he were stepping through a field of glass. She knew instantly that something was wrong. And when someone you love looks at you not with peace, but with fear, your heart knows before your mind can catch up. She approached him slowly. Her steps hesitant. Hyun stood rigid, hands clasped tightly in front of him, eyes drifting anywhere except toward her face. The man who once met her gaze with unwavering warmth now trembled, unable to speak. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, until she finally whispered his name. His breath shuddered. The truth, whatever it was, had been carving itself into him for far too long. When he finally looked at her, the depth of sorrow in his eyes made her chest tighten. It was the look of a man who had rehearsed this moment countless times, yet still feared the consequences. She waited, trying to steady her breathing. But her pulse quickened with each passing second. The storm outside grew louder, as if the world itself was bracing for what was about to be revealed. Ye Jin, he began, voice cracking. There's something I should have told you a long time ago. The room froze. Every memory they had built together, wedding vows whispered under trembling lights. Quiet mornings wrapped in warmth. Laughter shared over burnt toast and late-night scripts, flashed before her eyes. She felt herself gripping the edge of the sofa to keep from shaking. Behind her calm exterior, a tidal wave of dread began rising. He paced nervously, unable to stay still. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to break what we have. His words fractured mid-sentence, like glass splitting under pressure. But the truth has been eating at me. Her throat tightened. This wasn't a simple confession. This wasn't a forgotten promise or a misunderstanding. This was something deeper, something capable of changing everything they had built. She stared at him, silently begging him to continue. Afraid of the pain but more afraid of the unknown. Hyun finally stopped pacing. He pressed a hand to his forehead, exhaled a shaky breath, then looked at her as if he were preparing for the collapse of his world. And then, with a trembling voice, he revealed the truth. It hit her like a physical blow. Her chest tightened so sharply she could barely breathe. Her vision blurred as shock washed over her. And merciless. The man she trusted more than anyone had carried a secret so heavy, so devastating. It shattered the foundation of their marriage in a single instant. Her hands began to tremble uncontrollably. She blinked hard, trying to focus. But the room spun around her. She took a step back, her knees weakening. For a moment, she couldn't even form words, only breathless gasps escaped her parted lips. She looked at him with disbelief, rippling across her face. The truth he revealed was not just shocking, it was a truth that pierced straight through her, one that tore open emotions she didn't know she still held. He reached out instinctively, recoiled as if burned, her eyes filling with tears faster than she could wipe them away. Her heart cracked open under the weight of betrayal, of compassion, of confusion. Love twisted with pain. And then she collapsed onto the sofa, her body shaking with uncontrollable sobs. The moment felt endless, raw, unbearable. Owing in the dimly lit room, Hyun stood helpless, watching the woman he loved crumble before him. His own eyes glistened. But he didn't dare approach. He had known this truth would hurt her, but he never imagined it would break her so completely. Outside, thunder rumbled across the city, almost swallowing her quiet cries. Every tear that fell carried the weight of the secret he had kept for far too long. The truth hovered in the air, haunting them both, pulling their love into darkness neither had expected to face. But what happened next was even more shocking. The storm outside intensified, as if the sky itself was cracking under the weight of what had been revealed. Ye Jin tried to steady her breath. Every inhale trembled violently. The truth, Hyunbin's confession, kept replaying in her mind in jagged fragments, each one slicing deeper than the last. Her heart felt like it had been forced open with bare hands. Hyunbin stepped closer. Slowly, cautiously. A man approaching a wounded creature he loved but feared would flee. "Jin, please listen," he whispered, voice hoarse with emotion. "I never meant to hide this from you. I was scared. I didn't know how to face it myself." She looked up at him, tears streaming down her cheeks, her eyes filled with a mixture of heartbreak, disbelief, and a desperate need for answers. By now, she managed to choke out, "Why after 3 years?" His shoulders slumped. "Because I couldn't carry it anymore. Because every day I looked at you, and I felt like a coward." Another crack echoed in the distance as lightning split the sky. The shadows in the room lengthened, casting fractured shapes across the floor, like the remnants of trust scattered between them. She rose slowly, her legs barely steady. Her gaze locked onto his with fierce intensity. "You should have trusted me," she whispered. "You should have told me before we exchanged vows, before we started this life together." He flinched, as though the words struck him physically. Opened his mouth to respond, but she lifted a trembling hand, stopping him. "I'm not just hurt," she continued. "I'm terrified. Terrified that I never really understood the person I married." Hyunbin reached for her once more, fingertips hovering near her wrist, longing to offer comfort. But she stepped back again, and the distance between them widened, cold, silent, dangerous. Then something shifted. Her sobs quieted. Her expression changed, not calmer, but steadier, as though she was bracing herself for the next blow. "Everything," she said softly but firmly. "No more half-truths. No more hiding." Hyunbin swallowed hard. His Adam's apple bobbed in his throat. Then he nodded. He began recounting the events that had led to the secret, the pressure he'd been under, the impossible choice, the mistake he thought he could bury, the consequences that followed him like a shadow no matter how deeply he buried it. As he spoke, the room seemed to tighten around them, walls closing in as the truth unfolded layer by painful layer. Ye Jin listened, silent but trembling. Revelations made her gasp. Others made her eyes widen in stunned disbelief. And one moment, one particularly sharp truth, made her stagger back as if all the air had been punched out of her lungs. Her hand flew to her mouth. "God," she whispered. "Hyunbin, how could you carry this alone?" His voice cracked. "Because I didn't want you to look at me differently." A heavy silence fell. Then, slowly, painfully, she sank onto the edge of the sofa again. Tears welled up once more, not just from hurt, but from the sheer weight of everything he had endured in secret. Buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. Hyunbin hesitated only a moment before kneeling in front of her, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "No, I hurt you," he said softly. "But I love you. I always have. I reveal this now because I want to stop running from the truth. From you, from myself. I want to rebuild this with honesty, even if it breaks me." Words, raw, vulnerable, cut through the storm of pain swirling inside her. And for the first time since the revelation shattered her heart, lifted her head. Her eyes, although still brimming with tears, held a flicker of something fragile, something that felt like hope struggling to survive the wreckage. She whispered, "I don't know if I can forgive you, but I'm still here. And that must mean something." A tear slid down his cheek. He nodded slowly. "We'll face it together. If you'll let me." Outside, the rain softened, the thunder faded, and a thin streak of dawn light began to break through the clouds, subtle but undeniable. Inside that quiet living room, two broken hearts sat facing each other. Still raw and heavy, but for the first time, illuminated. Their marriage had been shaken. cracked open by a secret too long buried. But in those tender moments after the storm, a new chapter began, one not built on perfection, but on truth. And sometimes, truth, no matter how shocking, is the only way for love to truly survive. In the end, what began as a night of unbearable truth slowly transformed into a fragile beginning, one shaped not by flawless happiness, but by courage, honesty, a willingness to face the darkest corners of love. Marriage would never be the same after Hyunbin's shocking revelation. Yet within the raw and trembling silence, something new started to breathe. A love rebuilt not on illusion, on truth, painful, imperfect, but undeniably real. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Your presence, your curiosity, and your support mean more than words can express. Stay with us for more untold stories, hidden moments, and unforgettable revelations. See you again soon.